Mental Health Monday.
On Mental Health Monday. On Mental Health Monday. On Mental Health Monday. Mental Health Monday.
You've done a great job, by the way.
Oh, thank
I
you.
just want to let you know
Oh,
that.
I appreciate that.
You came, killed the game. You a killer.
Oh, we love that. Yeah.
Soft life.
Thank you.
Hey, what's up, homies? It's your boy Juice Jones back with another episode of Mental Health Monday. Here with Jillian. What's good?
Hey, I'm Jillian. I am the owner of Graceland Therapeutics LLC, which is a mental health agency based in Lanham, Maryland, where we provide mental health support groups and mental health workshops every single month.
When it comes to being a therapist, do you consider yourself a therapist or just a worker within the community?
I consider myself a therapist. I earned that. I worked for that.
You said that? Earned and paid for it. Not even a question.
Years of school, studying and shit.
Which name would you prefer for us to use in the interview?
Like Jill or Jillian? Jillian.
Jillian? Okay. Is that a name that you enjoy? Was it like when you got that, you're like, I'm gonna own this.
I love
this name's gonna belong to me.
I think it's really pretty. I think it flows really nicely. Jillian Grace. My parents did that for sure. I think it suits me as well too. It's not something that you hear too much, kind of rare. And I just think it sounds really pretty, but a lot of people say it incorrectly and spell it incorrectly.
When you sent me your name, I was like, I'm gonna ask her how to say the name.
See?
Because I do want to say it correctly, and I don't want to just assume this is how it's said.
That bothers me because, not you, but just the concept of that in general, because it's said exactly how it's spelled. So I'm like, if people just slow down, if we all just take a deep breath, we can all say it.
But we do live in a world now where something is spelled one way and it can have 5 different pronunciations.
Very true.
So like asking the question is better than just assuming.
Oh no, 100%.
Yeah.
Got it, yeah.
Where are you from originally? I don't think I've ever asked you that. Are you? Okay, born and raised?
I was born in Washington Hospital Center, but yes, born and raised Silver Spring, lived in the same house my entire life until I left for college.
Okay. Is there something beautiful about having roots in the place that you live in and making a difference in the community that you're originally from or close to?
Definitely, yeah.
Okay, tell me more about that.
I always say, like, I want people in this area to know me as, like, the mental health girl. It's something important to me about making sure that my people in my community is good first. I don't really understand these people who, like, go out and try to save the world before they, make sure that their own people are good. I'm all about trying to save the world, but I think it starts from within, So, and I mean that as intimately as it goes, for myself too. I take very good pride in making sure that I'm good. My self-care is good. The people around me are, good, essentially. So the same applies for my community.
Is the world allowed to save you also? The reason I ask is, what I run into when it comes to our work and doing these sit downs is a lot of us don't see ourselves as people in the stories of the things that we're doing. A lot of us see ourselves as we have this responsibility of things that we have to do, people we have to save, communities we have to cater to. And what I tend to realize is later down in everyone's journey, do they realize, dang, I was doing all that and I never included myself in this story of things I was doing.
I definitely look at myself as more of the healer than the one that needs anyone to heal them. But I would, that's inaccurate. Like, let's be for real. That's not true. And I definitely have my people, like my best friend Yaya. She's phenomenal. I just can call her like, but there's not too many people that I have that I would do that to, because I'm that person.
Okay.
So I do struggle with that a little bit sometimes.
Well, how so? Would you be able to give me an example?
Sure. Just like when I'm feeling burnt out or overwhelmed or disappointed in myself in some way, those are not things that I want to share with people, Like, I feel like I try to be good genuinely so that I can portray myself as like, I'm okay, I'm well put together, I am a person who you can seek for help because I not have it all figured out because I'm a human, but like I'm not out here making terrible decisions and just a hot mess, you know? So when I feel internally like a hot mess, that's not that's between me and God, you know?
That's funny. It's me and God. Okay, just me and God.
Right,
That's funny.
right.
Do you have anybody that makes that space for you?
I think all my friends do. I
Okay,
think
so
I have
do you have
really
like a
good
big collective of friends or a very tight
I have a real
collective?
Cheerio-sized circle of friends, but all
You
of
said
them.
Cheerios? I just pictured you putting the Cheerios close to your eye as possible and saying, "This is them. This is
them."
this is them."
Honestly,
they
yes.
made the cut.
And
That's
I don't know what it is about me, but I'm very like, if I like someone or if I like something, like for example, these bracelets, so silly example, I've been wearing these since the day they were given to me. Like if I like something, I'm going to hang on to it. All my friends I have had since I've had them, you know, one of which being over 20 years, most of which being from as early as middle school. So I hang on to my things that I cherish.
Bracelets look nice.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
So, you may not remember, but what made you reach out to me to give me an invite to pull up to your company to be a part of is it a therapeutic session that you were putting together?
Yeah, support groups. So
which was awesome. Because when I saw that DM, I said, "Who the fuck is this?" And then I was like, "Oh, this is a nice color scheme." I was like, "Oh, this looks like some really good work." I was like, I wonder, does this person know who I am or the work that I do? Or did they just come across my page and they caught a vibe and they're like, "Hey, I think it'd be nice to invite them so they know about the work that I do on this side." I don't think I've ever asked you that, but that was the very first thought I had when you reached out to me.
Thank you for the compliments in that. I believe that someone tagged me on one of your Instagram things. I can't remember what exactly.
Okay.
Don't remember who. Honestly, a lot of the people on my mental health and business pages, I don't know who they are. I'm going to be real. I'm a connector.
Take your time getting to know the community.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I love outreach. I love connecting. If somebody DMs me and says, "Hey, I have this going on," I fully embrace it. It's, you know, if I can tell that someone's genuine. And when I saw that you were in the mental health space, hey, that's me. That's how, you know, I'm about it. Like I'm all about community. If we have a mutual cause, or if we're doing something similar to like raise awareness about mental health in the community, we need to be friends.
Yeah, I appreciate that. The reason I ask is, so I'm very picky on who I do sit downs with and conversations and everything else. And the reason behind that is there's a lot of people that, with or without credentials, are claiming to make a difference in their community. And I don't think everyone should have to do extra hours. Like every person who owns a business shouldn't have to work overtime because they own a business. And every person who's a therapist shouldn't have to do community outreach. But I'm very particular about who comes on here because, like, I would hate to bring someone on who only treats therapy as just a job and can't see past their job.
Right. No, that's a really good point.
When it comes to that, you and I, we know the sacrifice of owning your own LLC, paying those taxes, working together with people, being sensitive to making mistakes, but understanding, hey, you need to make mistakes in order for your business to succeed and you need to try other things.
Right.
And we don't really have a lot of people that are giving us advice because a lot of what we've made, it's not a beaten path. Even if it's a private practice, that doesn't mean the rooms that you've put together and the people that are in it, everyone's going to have advice for that, especially when it comes to like the boundaries of the client versus, what would you consider yourself?
Therapist.
Yes, the client therapist relationship.
Right.
So with that being said, how have you tailored your client therapist relationship in the work that you've done so far?
So that's a very interesting question because I claim to see everybody. I'm almost quite the opposite. I am if you need help, I'm going to at least try. And I usually tailor my therapy client relationships and who I see based on your vibe with me. I can vibe with anybody. I have clients right now who I'm wishing that they would fire me because I just feel like I'm not sure I'm helping you from my perspective.
Yeah.
But if you keep coming back, I'm helping you and I'm happy about that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like as long as I have availability and you need help,
Yeah.
I'm good to go.
Yeah.
I don't really have a very picky, no one has ever been like disrespectful to me or made me feel uncomfortable. I mean, I've done therapy with murderers, rapists, I mean, the worst of the worst kind of people. And like, as long as we can vibe and I feel like I am doing my job and a service to you, I can see you. I'm very honest though, if I feel like, hey, this is not my area of expertise, but I'm willing
necessary.
to, it's definitely necessary because I think when a client comes to a therapist, they assume this is their area of expertise because they are a therapist. No, we have, we have boxes.
We're section by
we
section.
have, right, and we have areas that we study more and areas that we study less. Like, for example, I don't see anyone under 13. I can't do kids. I won't. I have my own. I don't want to see it. But that's a personal preference. Some people don't want to deal with adults, you know? So it's important to say, like, what frame you're in, for sure.
And understanding the slice of life that you cater to when it comes to work that you do.
Right.
So do you have an area of expertise when it comes to the work that you do? Sure. And if so, would you happen to have 3 words that embody those areas?
Okay. So I work a lot with depression and suicide prevention. That's really my area of passion, I would say.
Do you put those together, depression and suicide prevention, or is it depression and then separately suicide
prevention? So I would
prevention?
say separately because not everybody who's depressed is suicidal. Everyone who is suicidal is depressed, but doesn't have to go the other way around. I have plenty of people who are depressed and would never think of committing suicide. So I would put them in 2 different boxes, but they're like cousins, you know, like they're...
What's up, cousin? One pops up, the other one's like, I might be here, you never know.
Exactly. And 3 words to describe most of my people who deal with depression or suicidal ideation. The first is definitely resiliency. And if they're seeing me, then they're courageous because they're seeking help. They recognize that they have an issue. And
do you think that takes a lot of courage to be seen by somebody like yourself, or just a therapist in general?
Yeah, just to disclose that you're dealing with depression in general is a courageous act. And to, you know, have the strength will be my third, to say like, I want to overcome this or I have a problem. You know, that's a big deal.
Okay. Now what's your 3rd word?
Didn't I say strength?
Strength and resilience.
And courageous. Courage.
Okay, courage. All right, cool beans. I fully agree. The first time I tried to get therapy, I think was in 2019, right before the pandemic. And it was probably one of the most terrible experiences I ever had of just trying to get help. And this is coming from someone that like was raised in a hospital, because I used to be a patient advocate before I went to college. In the summertime, my mom was like, you're going to put your suit on, you're going to be a patient advocate, you're going to work in a hospital. And I was already raised in the hospital. So like in middle school, after school, when I got out of school, I always walked up to my mom's job, which was East Orange General Hospital over in New Jersey.
Okay, yeah, I went to Seton Hall for a hot minute.
You mean the college or prep?
The college.
Okay. Oh, that's right around the corner from my cribbo.
Nice.
Yeah, Maplewood.
Okay.
Right by Ivory Hill, where the apartments were, that tower.
Yes.
Right
with
when
the
they'd be, and they'd be boxing on the basketball courts.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm 2 blocks away from there. That's where my house is at. Yeah. That's a
very small world.
Yes.
Yep. That was like, what a time. You know, my first apartment, $700 rent. 1 bedroom.
Was that expensive
mattress
back
on
then?
the floor. That, yes.
Okay.
For me.
Okay.
I was a broke grad student. I used to work at 27 Mix.
Okay. Oh.
As a waitress.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's a hell of a throwback.
That was my spot.
Well, god dang. Okay, cool. That's kind of a win. But okay. Wow, I did not see this part of the conversation coming. That's crazy. But I remember doing the intake, sitting down with someone who was a volunteer and them not telling me this person was a volunteer after asking, hey, I'm here to see a therapist, telling this person my story and private information, and then sitting down with a psychiatrist who was trying to prescribe me medication I didn't ask for, and reiterating, I'm here to see a therapist. I came to get therapy. I'm not here for medication.
Right.
And them saying, well, you have this, this, and this, and you have this medicine that would help. I was like, I hear what you're saying, but I would rather deal with the issue directly. And until we deal with that, I wouldn't want to take medicine to change things before really understanding what my problem is and the work I'm going to have to do.
Yes.
But it was one of those locations where they're like, hey, we need to give you medicine. And I was like, I'm not here to fill a quota.
Yeah.
If I come to you for help and you don't have it, it's okay as a company and as an institution to say, we don't have what you're looking for, and then make a suggestion. And when I realized they weren't willing to do either of those things because their focus was the quota and that's it, I was like, oh, this isn't going to work.
Yeah.
It was very quick. But it was disappointing because it's like the hardest part to me outside of the disappointment was filling out the sheet. Like writing down, what are you here for?
Yep.
Having these conversations with the strangers.
Yeah. The people who are not clinicians.
And then And I think one of the wildest parts to me was the intake room that I was in with the lady who was taking down notes of what I was going through, who I thought was the therapist. They had someone else who was in the room beside me, and I noticed above the wall there was a slit that was open and I could hear their conversation. And I was like, is it okay for us to be sitting in this room where I could hear someone's conversation, they could hear my conversation? What kind of institution is this? And every day I think about, like, how can I get places like that shut down? Because that's not privacy.
Yeah.
That's not really, that's not creating a, yes, you know about your HIPAA laws, yes. But that's also not creating a place of privacy for people to really get help and be understood and want to open up, because you kind of feel like they're facilitating, like, hey, your problem isn't that big of a deal. And it's like, nah, to me it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So.
And even when I feel personally, as a person who I consider myself to be mentally well, and I deal with people who are mentally ill, so I'll hear things and I'm like, it's probably not that deep. Like, I feel like if we just do this, then that problem would probably go away.
Yeah.
But it's difficult for someone who's in it to see that all the time. So saying that is not helpful, you know, or giving off that energy is not helpful. I tell people all the time, if I was in your situation, I would feel the same way. You know, this is really hard. It seems like it's very difficult for you, and kind of empathizing with what people are going through before you jump to, it's not that serious, just do this, you know, or just take this pill.
Would you say as a therapist it's important to meet the client where they are?
Yes, but I love that quote, and I know it very well, meet people where they are, but I also think it's important in therapy for let's have a destination as well. Okay. Like, here we are, but where are we trying to go?
Tell me more about that thinking.
So I'm very solution focused. I always ask people when they come to therapy, are we here to vent or are we here to problem solve? Either way is fine with me. I just want to know what I'm doing and what kind of energy I need to be investing into this. And if we're trying to fix your problem, then we have to do more than sit here and talk about our problem. We have to consider solutions, and they don't have to be my solutions. They can be your solutions, but we got to work together and figure out what they're going to be.
So you're big on action items.
Very big on action items.
Okay.
Very big on it. Yes.
Okay.
Especially if it's clients who I can tell can do it and they're either self-sabotaging or they're allowing other people to sabotage them who shouldn't have that power or emphasis on their lives, you know? But yeah, very solution focused.
Can you explain the thinking behind someone who self-sabotages?
I think that people get into a habit of chaos and dysfunction, and you become comfortable there. Yeah. And so when things start to be okay or have the potential to be okay, that's a foreign and uncomfortable feeling. So we self-sabotage. It's very common.
When you said that, I was like, ooh, a rock. Lift the rock up. Oh, self-sabotage. Push the rock back down. I don't want that today. So you mentioned earlier that you do work, well, you have done work with murderers and rapists, right? Is there a certain mindset and approach behind that work? The reason I ask you this question is I think a lot of folks assume everyone needs a therapist, right? But people don't think of who the therapist is willing to meet with and why these people need work and help too.
Yeah, no, I think my mindset going into it is just that everyone does need a therapist. And if everyone turned the murderer or the rapist away, our murderers and rapists will multiply.
Yeah, because they'll hand down what they've taught and not see the error in their ways.
Yeah, and it will continue on, and the next generation or the next person that they impact will then be impacted by this negative thing. I'm all about like exchanging positivity. So I feel like if you can come to me and explain to me your story and tell me exactly what happened in an honest way, and I can walk out of the room and feel comfortable about working with you, I'm going to work with you. I'm not turning people away because they have a past.
Yeah.
As long as I'm safe. Of course, my own personal safety is going to come before everything, but I'm very brave and I'm a believer that people are not all bad. So that if you can reach out to that nugget of good that's in them and appeal to that, you'll probably see more of that,
I think I've said this to my partner and friends that I'm close with on multiple occasions. As much as people love me for who I am and this person that I've become over the years, I tell them it takes practice. And that means every day I wake up not acknowledging that I'm this great person or this good person people love me as, but that I'm working towards it, and that's why I'm able to be him.
Yeah.
Because like if I don't practice it and I start telling myself I'm a good guy or I'm the good guy, it's very easy to stop being the thing when you're consistently praising yourself for what people praise you for, when it's like, no, actually that took a lot of work and that takes practice.
Yeah, no, it's so true, for sure.
Yeah, and it's very easy to also become opposite of that because you're busy saying, well, I'm a good person, why are these things happening for me? And it's like, well,
yeah, when you're a good person, but you confront adversity, right? Like I'm all about like, how am I going to respond to things that come in my path, right? Like I can respond to them in a negative way, or I can find the positive or the learning lesson in this and figure out how to turn it into a positive situation, or something that I just say, this is not for me, and detour.
Okay. When it comes to the work that you do with rapists in particular, and the reason I'm asking about this is coming out of the pandemic, prior to the pandemic, there was a big cancel movement. And I feel the word cancel and what it means and what it was supposed to mean has changed over the years. And people have diluted the original purpose of what that word was and what it was supposed to accomplish into all these things. And I feel people are missing the point. So I feel like this is a great discussion topic right here.
Yeah, for sure. I think that people have to give other people more grace, right? And we have to really get to someone's intentions. Now, obviously, somebody who rapes someone, and this is just an example, it's not like I work with rapists all day, all the time.
I got you.
But somebody who rapes somebody, that's a really bad thing, and that's something that no one should ever do to anybody. That's obvious. I'm more here.
An easy line across.
Lines across. Oh, rape. Oh, yeah, 100%. Yeah, especially with like kink culture and like, there's just so many ways that something can be seen as one way to one person and seen as another to another, right? And that's not, of course, ever excusing anyone who rapes. Like, that's terrible. But I can see how a line can be blurred. But I say all that to say, I'm not here to tell anyone that what they did was good or bad, or their choice was right or wrong. I'm here to figure out what's going on for you that made you make that choice.
Yeah.
Right? And hopefully if we get to the root of the thing, we can stop you from making choices that are not helpful for your life or helpful to the people that you come in contact with. That's really more my job. I'm never here. I have plenty of people who do things that, and not even as severe and terrible as rape, but just in general in their day to day that I would never do, but that doesn't mean that it's bad for them. That's your lifestyle. Do your thing, go off. But is it helpful for you? Is it helpful for your peers? Is it helpful for your community?
Are you having a hard conversation before these decisions are made also?
Exactly.
So the reason I bring that up is there's actually an interview that's probably going to come out a couple of weeks before we drop this interview, because yours is probably going to come out in October. The goal is to have a therapist on each episode, not each episode, on the platform once a month. So you're October. To answer your question from earlier. And he told me about his assault stories. He had 2 assault stories. He's someone who manages ADHD, and he was assaulted by one man, one woman. But the stories were different in terms of one person got him really drunk, and it was the girl, and it was on her birthday, and it was like a whole plot. And there was betrayal, disappointment, and I remember him telling me about the rape is bad.
Of course.
I'm not comparing which part of the story was worse, but there was one particular moment where the deed had happened, and he called his girlfriend to let her know what had happened. And she said to him, "You betrayed me. You did this to me." And he's like, "But I'm calling you to let you know I was raped." And she was like, "Men can't be raped." And I was just like, and this story happened to him back in 2013, 2014, if I'm not mistaken, right? So he's gone to therapy for it, but you go into therapy for things, I tell a lot of folks, that doesn't change the feeling. That changes the way it's digested and your perspective and how you're handling it. But what has happened has happened. Right. And then for the guy, they were at a party together, and he's like, "Hey, you should do this drug." And he was like, "All right, cool." But the guy didn't let him know what the drug would do to him. He took advantage of him in that moment. Oh, wow. And I was just like, oh my gosh. Like, it's not surprising to me that these things are so easy, but it's very disappointing when you hear these stories. And I always question, how did the people around you react? Because I'm very big on, unfortunately, life is going to happen to you, and it's not always going to be positive. But what does matter is the people who are around you that you trust, that you believe in, how did they handle your moment with you? Were they there for you, or are they just there because you're convenient and the relationship happens to work?
And what does being there for you mean, right? Because sometimes being there for someone can quite literally be doing the thing that doesn't feel good, right? For example, hospitalizing a loved one or calling the police on a loved one when you're feeling unsafe and feeling like somebody needs protection of some sort from their self or from someone else. Being there for you is a very tricky concept, because being there for someone doesn't always mean that they're a yes person or that they're necessarily saying that what you did or what you think is right.
No, I fully agree. And I've, for the last 2 years, been advocating that people do need to sit down and have the conversations of, what does being there for me look like? Especially when it comes to folks who have suffered from a manic episode or had moments like that. I tell folks, hey, you need to have a certain language that people know how to talk to you when things happen. They need to know what your triggers are and what to avoid when they're talking to you about something. They need to understand, when you lose it, you're going to lose it. You're not going to keep track, right? But sometimes there are words that brings you back that says, oh, I might be losing it right now.
This is like what we do in safety planning.
Okay, tell me about safety planning.
So safety planning is something that I recommend anybody who has suicidal ideation do when you're feeling well, right? Not when you're in the crisis, but when you're out of it. And you ask them, what are the things that would be helpful when you feel that way? What are the things that we can pinpoint or identify for, maybe this is not going well, or you're not doing well, or you're nearing a crisis state situation. So everything that you're saying is absolutely true. You know, you have to know what actually feels supportive to you, and you have to know what is helpful for you. And that's a lot of work that's done in therapy, is actually learning yourself and figuring yourself out. Because a lot of the things that happen to us that we perceive as negative may not even necessarily be negative, but they just might not feel like what you need in that moment.
Tell me where this comes from. I feel like you have like, did you learn that in school or after you graduated? You said, "Oh, we need to start doing these things."
So safety planning is kind of like protocol, you know, even from the case management
I
level.
love the
but
eye roll in it. You say it's kinda, but just saying.
Right, but I definitely believe that it's helpful and needed. Like a lot, and most of what I've learned, I will be honest with you, I've learned post grad, like just from actually doing the work, being on the front line, seeing what people are going through and what they're bringing to me as problems, and I'm like, oh, 30 people said that last week, you know, or something similar. So this is a general theme. That's how my groups came about.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I'm not about to keep talking to all y'all about the same stuff. We gonna come together.
I sometimes wonder how much of these things that happen, because I do recognize the same thing, are influenced by social media, or is it influenced by what's going on and what like the community is observing as a problem right now?
Yeah, no, for sure. And just, I think that the climate that we are in at this time is just very toxic in general. Relationships, not all, of course, but like the example that you used of the guy calling his friend to say he's raped. I can hear the girl right now. Like, have you heard that Kevin Hart, like, put the pigeon on the phone? Nobody's believing that. You talk about something that was the most, in her mind, the most extreme lie that you could have come up with, even though not a lie, very serious thing happened to him. But who's believing that, you know? Because we don't believe things like that in this day and age, in this culture. She said it herself, men don't get raped.
And now I feel like we're doing a lot of catching up. And in our catching up, we're making mistakes of, we have less forgiveness because we're all on the same page. And every day I see examples of us all not being on the same page at all. Like, we think we're reading the same book, but someone's on page 2 and someone's on page 98. And those pages are digested and implemented differently also.
Exactly.
So like, when it comes to the work that you do, when I see that you're doing group therapy, I think that's inspirational in a sense, because like managing a group and having words with a whole group and keeping track of who has what going on is not easy.
Right. Very
especially
true.
when that group is learning to trust each other, which I think that's a very major component. So how do you
probably
facilitate?
the most important part to me.
Okay.
And I make that very clear. We have a little spiel in the beginning, like we're here to trust each other and to share openly and not be super judgmental of each other. And hopefully the goal is, if they can do that in that environment, they can take what they've done there into the community.
Do you ever say, now just because you motherfuckers in this conversation and we have this whole meeting, we meet in the supermarket, don't spill the beans on who's going on with what?
Always.
Later,
That's like the first thing. I have a whole list of rules before we even start talking, because first of all, I think that sharing that helps people feel like, okay, this is a safe space, right? That there are rules and that we are all expected to keep this information confidential.
Yeah.
Even when it comes to like marketing, right? Like I always ask permission from everyone. Am I allowed to take a picture? I also use my own discretion. Like for example, for my suicidal ideation group, I was like, no pictures. I'm not going to do any type of like marketing outside of what I already have, because I want people to feel like I can come here and it's not going to go viral, you know? Like
I think about that because this year I'm so anti. One of my homies hits me up because they wanted to make a vulnerable space for men, right?
Okay.
And I think we've done a good job, but now I think we're kind of teetering into that we're doing our community a disservice area, the little gray area, because when he started this, I said, look, I'm only doing this particular project with you because I've avoided working with you for 2 years, and that's cool. I'm just a particular person. I want to see like, hey, are you consistent? What are you doing? How does it look like?
Sure.
And what are your goals? And do I really fit in that correctly? Or am I just like the fairy that's being used every now and then? Because there's not a lot of mental health advocates. There's people who like claim to be advocates on their pages, or they'll sprinkle it into a combo, but it's like, what are you doing for the community? What are you doing to make a difference? Are you progressing the conversation forward? Are you facilitating the right thing when you're there in person and giving people the advice they need with research in mind or experience in mind, or the people you've done work with in mind? Or is it just the word mental health and it's however you feel and that's it?
Right. Yeah. And what are you doing in your personal life too? Like that's a really big thing for me. I mean, me and my friends have conversations about how we're doing mental health wise and like what's going on in our personal lives that are contributing to that being good or not good, you know? So I think it's bigger than even just what you do on a work level, but like even in your own life too.
So right now we've done 2 vulnerable spaces for men, both successful, but I don't measure success, I measure consistency. Because like it's very easy to impress people with the knowledge that I have in a mental health conversation, and these are words that they need to hear.
Right.
But I measure, are the people reaching out to me after we have the big meeting and everyone feels good and they feel heard. I measure the people that reach out and say, hey, when's the next one coming? I have a couple of friends that I'd like to bring along.
Right.
I measure, hey, are we creating content along the way for the next one? Or are we busy until we get back to the next event? And now that I see we're busy until we get back to the next event, he's hit me up for dates, say, hey, man, we need to do some dates. Because he was busy for August. And we're in September. He's like, hey, man, we might need to plan for October. I'm like, wow, that's 2 months of us not delivering to the people. And then we're going to pop up in October. And it's like, do you say yes to do in October? Because there are people who may be looking forward to it. Or do you say, hey, we need to sit down and have a talk on what we are doing and not doing, and are we doing right by our community that we've made? Because for all these things that we're busy and doing, and you're running around doing yoga and I do the conversations on camera, which does progress the conversation itself forward, are we taking care of these men that we're looking forward to us giving them words and doing yoga and having wellness?
More in, because I battle with this within myself as well, and I really think it's more in what are you portraying yourself to be able to provide, right? Like, I make it clear I'm going to provide some sort of group every month. I'm not going to tell anybody how many. I'm not going to tell you what the topic is going to be yet.
Pull up.
And pull up if you pulling up, and if you're not, that's okay. I'm going to have it next month too. You know what I mean? Like, it's okay. And I always tell people, if I have 2 people show up or if I have 12 people show up, I'm going to be here.
That's the room.
We're here.
Yeah. That's
you know,
the room.
and this is what I can provide, because I also have 2 kids. I also have a full-time job. I also have a home to take care of. I have other things going on outside of my life as a mental health professional, but I am very dedicated to my life as a mental health professional. So here's what I can provide, and I hope that this works for you. That's where I'm at with it. So my response to you is, it's okay if you skip September, as long as you made it clear that we might be skipping some months.
And our original agreement was, hey, we should do this until October. I was like, let's do it 4 times.
So
let's
see,
sit down,
then that's now we're
times.
going a little bit against what we said.
And now it's like, hey, I'm antisocial because I'm busy. Like, between the edits for this, just sitting down to do the edits, you got to understand, this is 4 SD cards, unload time, depending on the computer that you use. That's 10 hours just to unload everything all together, right? Sit down, do the edit. Can your computer handle it? You might have to move some things around to the cloud, use some other SD cards to like store everything, and then getting the edit on to get it onto YouTube, and then cutting clips. You do a 2-hour conversation, you might be cutting clips. That's easily 4 hours. Feel what I'm saying? And that's a new M2 MacBook, but it's just like, look, you just described a 48-hour.
And the other piece that I think people miss about business owners like ourselves, and it's that, I don't know about you, but I am pretty much a one-woman show. So like editing, content creation, setting up events, booking venues, networking,
coming up with clothing,
meeting with people like you for opportunities to put both of ourselves out there.
Us hoping that we're going to be cool with each other when we meet.
Exactly. Right. I don't worry about that as much because I'm pretty adaptable, but
yeah, but when you feel the energy, it's very like, oh, I was hoping this would be better.
Right.
How do I adapt to this situation so I could like enjoy the rest of my day after and be like, well, we did it.
Yeah, exactly. Success. Win or lose, a win is a win. So I say all that to say that there's a lot that goes into it, and like hopefully one day, maybe, I don't know, you're probably sensitive about your creativity, but maybe you'll have somebody to do that stuff for you.
Oh,
but for right
definitely.
now,
Yeah.
it's all you. It's all me. So all of these things take time in addition to the other things that we have going on outside of this work, you know? So I just always try to give myself grace with whatever I'm doing. You know, some nights look like me being up editing videos until 2 a.m. Some nights look like me throwing my laptop and saying, I'm not doing this.
How do you do that as a mom?
What, stay up all night?
No, just the balance. Is there balance and harmony, or is it just like, look, I'm getting it done?
It is, it takes a lot of organization. When it comes to scheduling, let me be clear. I don't want you to look at my closet and be like, you said you were organized. I'm very organized when it comes to like scheduling, business logistics, right? Not the best when it comes to like hanging my clothes up. So it takes a lot of organization on my part, and everything is like a puzzle when it comes to my kids. Like if I know I got to pick up one at 1 o'clock, like for example, my son on Fridays, he gets out of school at 1 o'clock. That means that I need to be done with everything I need to do by 12 because I need to make time for traffic. Like this is how my mind works, you know? And then I'm like, okay, if I get him at 1, we're going to be home by 2. So if I need to take a virtual meeting at 3, I can do that, you know? So I fit everything into my day literally like a puzzle. And it just flows, you know? I give myself a lot of grace. I try to get good rest. I do a lot of self-care, bubble baths. I try to make time for friends and fun. So that I have the energy and the mental capacity to manage all of these schedules.
How do you deal with yourself when you've run out of mental capacity?
That's a good question. I think that is when things are more chaotic. But then again, I give myself grace.
Do you notice the chaos? Do you notice,
yeah, like I notice like, oh my God, look at my house.
Over into chaos.
Yeah, I'm like, oh my God, did I even do dishes this week? Like, do we have groceries even? How many times have we Uber Eats? Like, I noticed those things.
How many times have we Uber Eats?
Yeah, no, for sure.
Like, oh, we're a little out of control.
We're
right now.
exactly. Yeah. So those are the things that I pay attention to where I'm like, oh, hold up, we need a reset. And usually by the time I need a reset, God blesses me with a weekend. And I'm like, okay, great. At least I don't have my full-time job. So we can get the house together, start fresh for Monday. And that's kind of how my mind is. I'm all about like, just start over. Like it's not, I think from losing my dad from suicide, that has really taught me a lot at a young age that it's really never this deep. Like, that's what I want to tell people a lot of times. Okay, so your house is a mess. Clean that shit tomorrow. Or when you get a moment, you know, or you're behind on something. Sit down and figure out a plan for how you're going to recoup. It's not the end of the world. You lose your job, we're going to get you another one. It's going to suck. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. I'm not saying everything is easy and that there's no hardships. I'm just saying, like, can we change the way we're thinking about them? Because at the end of the day, we're all going to face adversity.
Yeah, that's not even a question.
It's not a question. So if we're going to melt down every time, then we already failed.
Or you could melt down in style. It's okay.
Go.
It's okay. Look at you melting down in cozy slippers.
Right.
Therapist perfectionism.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot of people want you guys to be perfect. You're like, hell no, you're not going to be perfect.
Like I told you, I can be a hot mess too. I just don't broadcast it.
Being a hot mess is fun though. It is, and it's necessary. Who would you be if you weren't a hot mess?
And how can you be a therapist if you don't accept that you have also experienced challenge and adversity as well, you know? A therapist is not just this God-sent perfect superhuman that's never been through something and just has all the answers for how to handle it. In fact, I often think in my head, I don't know what to do.
You sound like a poet right now. In fact, since on page 26, line 8, I looked at that line, I said, I don't know what the hell it's talking about.
Exactly.
But it is a line.
I do know how to connect with people. I know how to be empathetic. I know how to take what you're going through and say, I've never been through that, but the feeling that he's describing is sadness. I've been sad before. So now that I know that we're talking about sadness, here's maybe some things we can do to address sadness. I don't have to go through what you've been through. We don't have to walk the same path, right? For us to be able to relate and connect and for you to feel supported by me. A lot of the times I just have to listen. People just need space that's safe to say what they're actually feeling without having to put on the mask of if I say this, they're not going to talk to me for a week, or they're going to be upset, or they're going to misunderstand what I'm trying to say.
Make the mistake.
People just need to be heard.
Yeah, make the mistake though. If you make the mistake, now I know for a client therapist relationship, it's different because like you're expected to be perfect.
Right.
But like I expect the people I work with or who I believe in to make mistakes. It's really up to me to like have the greater conversation of, all right, man, so here's where you fucked up. I believe in you, but here's where you got me all messed up.
Yep. That's pretty much me in a maybe more polished way.
Yeah.
A little bit. Barely, but yeah.
But I mean, I also facilitate. My mom is really big on just saying what's on her mind. And I'm really big on noticing how that sometimes destroys the room. Mm-hmm. So I only speak when it's necessary or when something has to be said and it's the elephant in the room. Because, like, elephants have different sizes.
That is true.
You know what I'm saying? You can have a baby elephant, you can have, like, a little adolescent elephant, then you could have a grown elephant. Mm-hmm. And it's like, the way you approach these conversations and the points in its growth period are very important. Yeah. Why didn't you say something? I used this in a discussion that has to do with SI in terms of suicidal ideation. And I was like, there's a lot of people who their partners are suffering and they're like, well, why didn't you say something? It's like your partner spent a really long time in your relationship letting you know that they weren't happy. Why were you surprised when they left or they decided this isn't for me anymore? Mm-hmm. They gave you hints. You don't always have to say, I'm not happy. Sometimes you could just be really miserable and hope the person catches on. That may not be the best form of communication.
Sure.
But that's their communication and that's who you chose to date. Mm-hmm. So like if you don't pick up on these things or you don't make space to have the conversation and ask, hey, what's going on with us? Because sometimes you can't just make it about the person in your relationship. It's a two-way street. You guys are meeting in the middle. Mm-hmm. So when the relationship is going sour or the milk's gone bad, you do have to ask what's going on with us and not just make it about, you've been in a real funk lately. Like,
right. And not only what's going on with us, but what do we need to do? Mm-hmm. What is the work? I think a lot of times people get stuck, I notice in therapy, at the here's what's going on part. Mm-hmm. And like I said earlier, we stop there and we don't ever get to solution. We're able to recognize, okay, this is maybe what I should work on, or here's what I need to change. Next week, therapy session. So, I still didn't work on that. So no progress has been made, and that's fine. I'm here for it. We can do that for week after week after week, but I'm going to make it very clear to you every time that there's no change because there's been no change. Yeah.
Do you ever run into walls with, we're gonna keep this going and identify things? Have you ever done things to shake up the table?
Yes. Okay. I mean, I think I do a good job of asking the questions. I hear a lot, oh, I never thought about it that way, or oh, I never.
Oh, you're imitating what they've said.
Yes, exactly. Okay, like I hear that a lot, or, oh yeah, thank you for asking that. I never thought about that. Or, so I think I do a good job of asking the questions that maybe people don't think about on a regular, or speaking from maybe the other person's perspective of, well, yeah, I understand why you feel that way, but I can also understand that maybe they felt like this because you did this or whatever, giving in some other perspective other than just their own. And I think that always shakes up the room, because I think the other misconception that people get is that your therapist is always going to be like on your side of the argument, and that's just not effective at all. And I always say I am on your side, but I am on your side by giving you the real, like my actual gut reaction of like, well, of course this is happening because you're doing this. Like, why are you doing this?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. You brought up bubble baths, right? That's my shit. Now, ironically, do you do bath bombs? Are you into bath bombs? Are you like a big bath bomb person?
My daughter is a big bath bomb person, so we have them. I don't use them much though.
They're fun.
They're fun, yeah.
They're fun. In the right bathtub, they're fun. I'm large, so like I need like a large bathtub to enjoy like a bath bomb.
Yeah.
But there was a clip that came out on, it said Black Man Cry 2. No, not Black Men Cry 2. That's my friend's platform in New York. It's Black Men Express Yourself. It's one of the profiles that have been like really viral lately. And
Send it to me later.
he sat down, promise you I got you. He sat down with this therapist who said men need to take bubble baths. They need to
I am
practice taking
here for
bubble
it.
baths, right? And I agree, but it is hard because
Is it?
I used to have a claw bathtub. Like where I lived at before here, it was a luxurious claw bathtub.
Wow.
But the problem was like if you're not used to soaking and it's not something that you entertain, even if you have someone that is using your bathtub to soak, you're never gonna be like, oh, I can't wait to go home and soak. Now you're like, I'm gonna take a shower.
Okay.
Used to the shower. So even I had it for like 4 years. Probably used it for myself 7 times altogether.
Okay. Interesting.
And I always had bath bombs on deck. I had all the
So
products.
what is it about soaking that
I just don't like soaking. I don't like sitting still to soak. I have no issue with sitting still by myself, laying on the floor or chilling in silence. But in a bathtub, that's just different. When your skin's getting pruny and all the other stuff. I mean, there's the scrub and the shower after, but it's just
Right.
like even with Epsom salt, which is good because like I was working out a lot heavier at that time. I had more relaxation to me in an ice bath than in a hot tub.
Which is great.
Yeah.
Very good for
Yeah.
mental stimulation.
And I was always like, is it because the way I'm wired or the way my body has been conditioned from training? Or do I just really not enjoy the concept of, I don't think I like my body to be too relaxed sometimes. I'd
that's
rather prefer tension.
Kind of what I was saying about the self-sabotage. I know we put it back under the rock.
Yeah.
But that's a beautiful metaphor for what I was talking about. You're more used to the tension. So the peacefulness and the calm of a bath is,
Even with the
even
candles,
though it's great.
the candles, the music, the bath bombs, the Epsom salt, it never did it for me. I'd rather just lay on the ground and put a baseball in the part of like my quad that needs work and roll it out versus
Yep.
chilling in a bathtub.
Yeah,
with
I
hot
always tell
water.
the story. I used to work for Pathway Homes in Virginia, which is an agency that provides housing is my other big passion, by the way.
You speak on that more.
I want to end homelessness. That's my goal. If I was
Okay.
president, I'm ending homelessness. We'll get there. But I always tell the story. I had a guy who was homeless for years, older guy, and we gave him a beautiful apartment, nice. For the first 3 months, he still slept in the woods. The house was just, I can't speak for him. I don't know what it was but it was just too much for him. He couldn't, the calm, the peace, the solitude, the comfort was
Safety is hard to
uncomfortable.
accept.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as a young up and coming clinician at that time, I didn't understand it at all. I was like, you've been homeless. We just gave you a beautiful modern apartment. It's yours to keep. Here are the keys. And you still leaving and going to sleep in the woods at night? Couldn't understand. Now I get it though. It's all about comfort.
Do you think you've gotten it because of more of the clientele that you've worked with and you started to pick up on things?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Because I think a lot of the habits that we observe with people and conversations that we have, we start to see how it bleeds into different parts of their lives with like different clients and people that reach out.
Definitely, yeah. And I think that the more people that I speak to, the more things connect, right? Where I'm like, okay, and then other people that have the same diagnoses, for example, I'm like, okay, yeah, it can look like this, but it can also look like this.
Yeah.
You know, I'm seeing, that's why I say I learned the bulk of what I know from actually doing and working, not from going to school and reading books. Like, sure, that was helpful as far as giving me understanding and helping me have the credentials to be able to do what I do.
Yeah.
But the bulk of my learning has been from actually seeing things up close and actually talking to real people, coming up with my own suggestions and solutions and coping skills for how to deal with things and seeing that was effective. That didn't work, you know?
So within the work that you've done, what do you think the most important part of making space for others is?
Connection, rapport, hands down. I think that making people feel like you care, making people feel like you are really there for them is more valuable than any coping skill, any medication, any Like, people need to know this person actually has my back and wants to see me be better. And that's the number one thing that I strive for people to have as their takeaway from me. You know, I'm not claiming to be the healer and cure of all things that you're going through, but I can promise you that as long as you're my client, I'm going to support you and I'm going to be there for you, and our time is going to be sacred.
What does it mean to be your client?
To have somebody who, like I said, really cares about you, who wants to see you win, who's going to be real with you and honest with you, even if it's a difficult conversation.
Yeah.
And really help you notice your strengths.
Would you say, do you ever do sit downs with other therapists or observe the way they do what they do and think we can work better as a community versus how we're getting this done?
Do I ever sit down? Yes, I often meet with other clinicians who want to collab in some way, who may have ideas for things that, you know, they think we could be good partners on. More as of late, since I've had Graceland, of course. However, in the past, like working in the public sector, working as a case manager, I have observed a lot of therapists, a lot of psychiatrists, and thought to myself, would I do it this way, or would I do it another way, or what might be a more effective way? I think everybody's counseling style is different just by virtue of your personality being different, your values being different, and what you perceive as being the right or wrong way to do something. So I often think like, would I have said that? More times than not, I get gems from other therapists. I'll be like, oh yeah, I'm going to use that. That was good. Yeah, you know, I think everybody's style works for someone, you know.
Is it nice when you get a gem instead of you being the one who's always providing gems?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't perceive myself as being the one that always provides the gems. I think I learned
like 15 gems in this interview already. What do you mean you don't perceive
thank
one?
you,
Man,
but
how
see,
you perceive
again,
yourself is how you perceive yourself, though.
Right. I
Yeah.
think I appreciate that. And I'm not trying to downplay myself by any means. I'm very confident in my abilities. I think I'm a great therapist. But I also know that I am fairly new and I still have so much that I can learn too. I mean, I've been in this field for a long time, but I've only been independently licensed for a little over a year. So I know I still have a lot of learning and growing that I can do as well. And I just think that it's important for all of us to bring our gems together and not be so, you know, if I give 10 gems and you give 2, I got 2. I'm not so much worried that I put out 10, you know? I'm just like, we should just all give what we got.
What are 3 things you expect of other clinicians within the therapy space?
To be authentic is the number one. And so really, I think if you're going to do this, like, there should be a law that, like, you have to actually be passionate about this. Like, you can't be in this for the money because, first of all, depending on what you're doing, you might not make that much. You say you have to really be passionate about this so that you don't experience so much burnout and then end up quitting on people who really need you, you know? So that's something that I'm really passionate about, because it breaks my heart when I hear about people who are like, I had a therapist, but they ghosted me, or I had a therapist and, you know, or I can't find a therapist, you know? I think people really have to have a heart for this.
That ghosted me joint is cold.
Oh my God, it's terrible. And then you're kind of like, sorry that happened to you.
Yeah.
You know, like.
You now have to apologize for their past experience.
Exactly.
But you have nothing to do with it.
Right. And yet you're still trying to be like, go therapy. You know, when people have such genuine reasons why they don't want to do it or don't believe in it. And you hear them and you're like, that's valid. You know, I know as a person working in this field that does happen, you know? So I said, be authentic, really have a passion for the work. And when you are experiencing burnout, like, own that and really, like, take a break for a minute. It is okay. I can't tell you, I have had times where I've had to cancel sessions, reschedule sessions because I'm not here. I'm not going to show up to the session if I can't give you 100%.
Does
you
that
know?
go back to perfectionism and therapy when it comes to the therapist? Or is that more
I think
of a person thing?
it's a personal thing for me that I don't want to do a bad job at this.
Yeah.
Like, this is really important to me. So if my headspace is not right, if I'm not well rested, now that doesn't mean that I go around like canceling all my sessions. Of course, I try to,
Can't.
I do what I gotta do so that I can avoid that, you know, but I'm human too. So if I have those moments, I know that whether it's going to bum the client out or not, it's better for me to say, this is not a good day for us to do this session. Let's do it tomorrow than to do the session and I'm not mentally well.
Yeah. What's 3 pieces of advice you'd give to someone who may suspect that they're suffering from depression? I ask that because, like, these words are so overused. ADHD, depression, anxiety.
You said I can talk to this camera, right?
That's all you. That's
if
your
you
personal
think
camera
you
right
have
there.
ADHD, you probably do. I think we all have ADHD. Like, I'm ready for the day where Dr. Fauci or somebody is like, y'all all have ADHD. Like, can we just adapt now, you know, and figure out how we're gonna, it doesn't have to be this debilitating thing, right? Like, I think that we should change our thinking about ADHD to, instead of saying that the person who loses focus or the person who struggles to concentrate for long periods of time or maintain organization is flawed, right? Maybe we just need to change their lifestyle to adapt to that situation, right?
Yeah.
That's not a flawed person. The definition of ADHD or the diagnostic criteria for it
The big book.
are everyday things that can happen to all of us all the time, you know? So it's more like maybe you just need to take a break every hour instead of trying to stretch yourself for 8 hours. And, you know, like, soft life. I'm here for soft life.
Is that soft life? Is that a soft life thing?
I think it's a soft
we
life.
may need to come back to have a discussion about soft life.
Okay, I think we should.
Yes, I would really enjoy that. So, observation. Moderna. Right. I was watching Tennis Open in the middle of the gym last night, and down to the corner, right by the tennis balls, you see Moderna, all the advertisements. And as of late, I've had a lot of conversations with folks who are on ADHD medications, and they told me how Moderna was not the ride it was supposed to be when they were younger. But it's just like, I hear what you're saying, but how does someone's experience that wasn't great for them as a kid translate into Moderna, this big company that's being advertised everywhere, when you have that much money? Like, who steps in and say, this is actually not that great for everybody, but they do have a lot of money?
Right.
Because that's what
I think that
with the work that I'm doing now and all these conversations that I'm having and these personal stories that are shared, I keep running into these correlations, and it's like, these correlations are not changing. Like, the story is the story with 5 different people who do not know each other.
Yeah.
So chances are that's a lot of other people's stories that's just not being said out loud, because it's like, well, at least I have something.
Right. And oh my God, people love a diagnosis. Definitely. Oh my God. I think it's something comforting about someone telling you, oh, you're like this because you have this. And if that works for you, I'm happy. I'm the person who, if it works for you and it makes you feel better, great. But I always tell people, I'm not so worried about how many different doctors gave you how many different diagnoses. I want to treat symptoms. The symptoms are really the issues that are causing distress, right? So that's why I said what I said about ADHD. You probably have it. I probably have it. We don't need to worry about who necessarily has it and doesn't have it. We need to pay attention to people and their experience in the world and how to make that experience easier and better for them, right? So whether we call that you having ADHD or you have depression, whatever you want to call it, we need to focus on the symptom.
Okay. Now let's talk about soft life.
Okay, let's talk about soft life.
How do you
Favorite
define
topic.
soft life?
I think having a soft life is something that looks different for everybody, first of all, right? Because
So
I am
it's a soft
sure.
life for you then.
Okay. My soft life is making sure that I have time for all of the things that actually fill my cup, that make me feel like I did something today other than just work. But again, work is part of my soft life because I feel very happy and fulfilled when I do work that's meaningful for my community, right? But if I feel overworked or burnt out, now we moved out of the soft life criteria, right? So I think soft life is being able to create your life, making it work for you. That's what I was going to say. I think Beyonce's soft life probably looks a little different than somebody else's, you know, like making sure that you're able to do the things that you want to do in your life in addition to the things that you have to do.
So want versus have to.
Exactly.
So the reason I asked, how do you define soft life is, when soft life hit the internet, there was this sweet spot for 4 weeks where soft life was soft life, and both men and women can share and partake in soft life.
Okay.
And then on day 31, it was over.
It was over for men. Is that what you mean? It was over for men?
It was over for men, but for women who were enjoying soft life, they became the point of criticism. You can't afford soft life. If I did soft life, I'd be broke. My credit cards would be ran up. All those people you see doing soft life, it's because they spent all the money.
Soft life, though, that's my thing. Soft life doesn't mean that we're on vacation every day, laid out in the Bahamas. I wish.
Self-care first.
That exactly. It's not, neglecting your have-tos. We have to do the have-tos. It's making sure that when you lay your head on your pillow at night, you can say that you did something you wanted to do.
Do you think soft life is a privilege?
Yes. Very much so.
And I think that's a conversation that everyone should be okay with having. It's a privilege to be able to have a soft life. Yeah. Let's not get it twisted now.
Let's not get it twisted. Yeah, definitely. And finances are a big part of soft life because a lot of the things that we want to do cost money. Let's be real here.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, most people, I would even say in this economy, don't have extra money, even despite what you see on social media.
So,
like extra money to cater to their soft life.
What would be your ideal day of soft life, right? And then what would be your ideal day of self-care? And do they look different and feel different for you? Or what goes into that? Because I think for me, self-care is... Let me define self-care.
Okay.
Actually, let's start that. I should do that. I don't want to just, you got to answer all these questions.
No, it's fine.
So for me, self-care is you're putting yourself first, because if you don't, you won't have the mental aptitude to not be rude to the people that are supposed to be contacting you about things that you do with them.
Right. That's a good example.
Whether it comes to my friendships, my mom, and when she calls and understanding I need to be patient in this conversation, or actually being willing to care about my friends and remind myself why it's okay to care about your friends versus just being happy that you have friendships.
Right, sure.
Yeah, because I think I'm of the mindset that I'm dating everybody.
Okay.
Because each person is its own relationship, and each relationship takes a different amount of work.
True.
So
Definitely.
Most people would say, oh, you're only dating the person you're with. Yeah, but like, if your friendship is falling to the wayside, there's something both of you aren't doing. And you really have to measure, do I have the energy and the mental capacity to really give that relationship the effort that it is? Or should I be working more on being comfortable with the relationship is the relationship, and that's okay.
Right.
So when it comes to self-care, I think of, one, what am I doing for myself physically if I need anything physically? Because not everything that's self-care related has to be physical. It doesn't have to be a bath bomb.
Right.
It doesn't have to be yoga. It doesn't have to be meditation, which meditation goes more into the mental side. But you're physically taking time to do the thing.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And I think that self-care is a criteria for having a soft life. That would be my answer to your question. Like, there's no soft life if you're not taking care of yourself. So I think for me, there's a lot of overlap. But soft life, if I had it my way, I would be taking all my sessions from a nice island and, that would be the softest life, but I think that my life now is pretty soft. I feel blessed. I love my life. I love my kids, doing things with them, for them, watching their joy, knowing that I'm providing a soft life for them makes me feel good. I do a lot of things that make me feel good in my day to day.
Yeah.
And I don't do a lot of stressing in the way that I observe others stress in therapy. Like if I were to go to therapy, again, of course I've been in the past, but like if I were to go today, it would be more like, how can I be a better partner? How can I better navigate my interpersonal relationships? How can I reach all the goals that I want to reach? It would be more goal focused and like about bettering myself than it would be like this long list of problems that I perceive myself to have. Does that make sense?
No, that makes sense.
So I don't do a lot of day-to-day stress of like, I gotta clean this up, or I'm not good enough, or I'm not doing well enough, or how am I gonna afford to do this? So that feels like a privilege to me, that those types of things in my life feel very like wrapped up with a nice bow. And that the work that I feel that I have left to do on myself is more so to get myself to the next level. Does that make sense?
No, that makes sense. I think for me, an example of soft life would probably be hiring someone to clean up the apartment once every other week. It would be sitting down and actually, so when you're an athlete or you've practiced being an athlete, and not just pro trials, just an athlete in general, as children, we're taught to, your body is the nail and lifting and training is the hammer. And we don't do a good job of maintenance, like acupuncture, getting seen,
massages and stuff.
Deep tissue massages. And I told my partner, I was like, one of the things I want to do outside of just being this strong person again, because like being strong for me it's not hard. It's how do you maintain it and get to the point that certain parts of your body isn't swelling because it's had damage from like years of what you've done to it. And what does that balance look like? So like soft life for me is honestly just like, if I could have the best quality of life for myself 15 years from now with the work ethic that I've had, then to me, I've accomplished soft life. And also getting back to making time for the friendships or measuring what's there and what's not.
Right. Yeah.
Because it's like, as I said before, everything takes work, but my relationships have inspired me to become the person that I am. But just because these things have inspired you doesn't mean you've done a good job of taking care of the things that inspire you. Just like the art. Remember, the art was on the floor before I started putting on the wall, but the art is still beautiful. But me as a person, I've changed.
Sure. Yeah. No, definitely.
Yeah.
I think all of that is true. And I think this conversation right here is testimony that soft life is very personal to the life that you're talking about. It's very relative.
Yeah. So what are 3 things that your client should expect from you with the work that you've accomplished? Because what I've seen you facilitate is group therapy, and outside of group therapy, what is the other kind of therapy or solutions you offer people when it comes to...
So I do individual therapy as well. That's my full-time job. Monday through Wednesday, I see 30 clients.
I like the limit.
Yeah.
Monday to Wednesday, that's it. Just Monday to Wednesday.
Yeah, I just implemented that recently because with Graceland, it's just too much. I have to have time dedicated to everything.
Why Graceland?
Why did I name it that?
Yeah.
Okay, so I envision a wellness center. Like that's my end goal. I want to have like a big building. Okay. And you're gonna go in and Juice Jones podcast is gonna be over here.
Right in the corner.
And you're gonna be able to get like guided meditation over here. Yoga's on the 3rd floor at 5.
Britain Jazz killing the game.
And it's Graceland. It's just the land of grace and peace and soft life. And in the same way that when you're stressed after work, you can go to the bar and get a drink, you're going to be able to come to Graceland and just like woosah.
Register for the class.
Exactly. And not even necessarily like how we have it now is like register for the class. We're going to have some walk-ins. and it's just going to be a therapeutic space. And the name came about very randomly. I just was like, Graceland. And I saw what I'm telling you. You can't see it because it's up here.
I actually, it's
going to be colorful and peaceful, and like, it's just going to be a vibe. And I feel like the best way we can describe it is Graceland.
I have a similar aspiration.
Okay.
But like, for me, it's exactly what yours sound like, but it's just get home safe. And I'm like, I want a building.
Yeah.
Same exact thing you said.
Give me a building.
But then I usually tell folks, the thing that you want, you need to start thinking about what does it take to maintain.
Exactly.
Take that to the next level. And does the dream that you want you back?
Right.
When it comes to a lot of things that we do in life, whether it's helping the community, whether it's chasing your pro career, whether it's just the relationships, these things take work, and work takes time, and sometimes time takes resources you may or may not have. So are you willing to get the thing that you want, but it looks and feels different? Do you ever think about that when it comes to your business? Yeah, I don't want you to water down your expectation. You feel what I'm saying? Like, your expectation is your expectation.
This is one of some may perceive as a flaw. I'm very like, I see it, I want it, I like it, I got it. Like I have these very clear visions of how I want things to look and the way I think that things should be. And that's why I think sometimes it can be to a fault, because for me, I have examples of things where it didn't go the way I envisioned it, and it was great. It was beautiful. 10 out of 10. But
10 out of 10. Yeah. Bring them back. I got you.
But there's a lot of anxiety in that for me. Yeah, I'm speaking only from my experience.
And that's what I think about. I think about, how do we do the thing and mitigate anxiety being in the room with us? Because does it take longer? Sometimes it does. But like, as badly as you want the thing, are you building the team that makes sure you don't have anxiety as we put it together? Because there's certain people who they accomplish their dreams and it was like, oh my God, it was so amazing. And you're like, it was the worst experience I ever had in my life. Right? Yeah. Versus people who built it, it's like, oh my God, it was so amazing. And you it looked so hard for you. And you're like, actually, nah, it wasn't hard. Because I was concerned about making sure we had the right people as we did it.
Right.
And I think
that's a good point.
That's what I think about a lot. Like, I'm just talking to my boy. I was like, all right, man, so if I get a master's in therapy, right? Because I'm not a therapist. I'm just an advocate.
Love that. Not just.
I say just because I wear different hats. So, like, this is the advocate hat right here, right? Because I'm never belittling myself, like, ever.
Good.
I'm that man.
There you go.
But, I think about, what was I saying? Because
you were just telling your boy.
I just called myself that bitch in my head. Yeah. Like, hey, we're not trying to say that on camera today, right? But I was telling my guy, hey, what's the demand if I do get a master's in therapy? He said 2 years.
There.
I said too much. I said it's too much. I said I've already built momentum now, right? And my point of view from being an advocate is there isn't enough of us who are true advocates. I'm not telling someone who hasn't done the work that I've done that they're not true advocates, but I understand what true advocacy is and the consistency that it takes and how building these spaces are necessary, because I want folks to realize they're humans. It's not just a service. So you build that relationship with the person. I want folks to see more therapists and more faces and understand, hey, we may have the resources, we may not have the resources. Hopefully I come across a topic that relates to someone and they pick up the phone and say, hey, Juice, that person you talk to, can I get their number? I'd really like to inquire what their services are, what kind of insurance do they take, how much does it cost? I have 5 people like that right now in my DMs and my text messages. Right? And each time I have sit down with one of you guys, I get to be like, oh, you're a perfect fit. Or I get to say, oh, you're not
so much. Right. Yeah, exactly.
Right. So as I build these things out, I always think to myself, how long do I have? Because passion should come with a finish line sometimes, depending on who you are.
Yeah, I feel you.
And I'm really big on like, hey, the thing that you're doing, is it loving you back? Are you putting yourself in position for it to love you back? And if not, how do you put a bow on it?
Right.
And that's it.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel that for sure.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, you summed it up beautifully.
So what's next for you? Because I think in my demographic of people, I think you may have done the best rollout on suicide prevention and putting out information out there and doing workshops for the last 3 months.
Thank you.
And to me, that was really important because our backstories. But like when I saw it, I said, I have to interview you. Like I just want to hear how your mind works and why you do the things that you do, and like how much energy does that take?
A lot, yeah. But it again, I love this.
Yeah.
Like this is, you know how some people like feel like they don't know what their thing is, or like they don't really connect to any one passion. I don't feel that. Like this is my thing. I'll probably do this even like until my end of life, you know. I was gonna say till I die, but I hate to speak those words. But yeah, I think this is really, I know that this is my thing. So the energy that goes into me, like it charges me up. Like, you know, it doesn't make me feel like I'm so drained at the end of the day. I hate my job. Like, no, I love it. So a lot of energy goes into it, but I'm very creative. So it's like mixing my love for creativity with my passion for mental health. And like I've shared many times, I lost my dad to suicide when I was 15. And the way that hit me and changed my life in such a ultimately a positive way, but immediately a very negative way.
How old were you?
15.
Okay.
It has made me feel like I don't want anyone else to have to experience what my family has had to experience. And
that's exactly my thinking.
Yeah. And so I'm like, if you are experiencing it, at the very least, I want you to know that we're out here and we're going to all gather together and support, you know, that there's at least me.
Yeah.
So that's really like the motivation behind it. Is like, I don't think anybody should be walking around feeling like they want to kill themselves and no one else knows about it and there's no one there to help them.
Yeah. I know I have a lot of therapy that I gotta go to, like, soon. Like, it's just the truth.
Yeah.
Like, you're aware of, like, you should go to therapy. Like, because you can't lie to yourself.
Yeah, I'm going to get that, like, tatted. You should go to
therapy. You should go to therapy. What's that tat say? You should go to therapy.
Exactly.
But outside of me knowing for that part of my life I need to go to therapy, a lot of this work has educated me so much when it comes to that community.
Yeah.
Understanding what it is and what it's not, and being able to reflect on the mistakes that I've made and haven't made. Like, looking back at the work that I've done now and the people that I've worked with, I can honestly say that I did my best that I could for my friend.
Yeah.
All the way down to the end. And it's like, as much as you're still angry, because there's a child inside of me that has this voice of, we made promises, and it's like, yeah, but you realize in life, you really can't keep a lot of the promises you're trying to keep. You give people your word in hopes that the work meets what you said out loud.
Yeah. And see, I think that I have almost the opposite experience, being that I was so young when my dad was going through what he was going through. It was more so like hidden from me. And I understand why. Like, I'm not criticizing the people who did their best to protect me from this very serious and scary thing. But I think now almost a disservice to me, because I think, what if I was the person who could have helped? Or what if me knowing about this could have somehow made a difference? And I say that not from a perspective of guilt, because I feel no guilt or responsibility for what happened to my dad or the decision that he made. But I do feel like the what if I could have said something or done something, or me knowing about his depression would have made some sort of larger impact in his mind. Maybe it wouldn't, maybe it would, but I do know now that the work that I do heals that question within inside of me. I feel like I'm like exactly what you said. I'm doing all that I can for the community, since I can't do for him. That ship has sailed, but I can give back now with the knowledge and expertise that I have currently.
Now, for me on the opposite, I do feel guilt and responsibility, even in understanding that I did my best and we did our best with the knowledge that we've had that's limited.
Sure.
But I also do bring up other facts within the interview. Have you ever, as a person, tried to Google depression and anxiety and ADHD and see what comes up?
No, only the medications, because I'm so bad at remembering all of them.
Us being in this medical field, we have blinders of we understand it from the experiences and the people we've worked with
Sure.
and what we've been taught. And the ordinary person doesn't have access to the information that we have unless we
Right.
tell it to them.
Sure.
So when you try to Google stuff, it's a very limited scope of what
I
the
bet.
thing is.
Yeah.
And then people are trying to do their best with a limited scope. So you and I, we have blinders, but people just have the, you remember Inspector Gadget, how he had the little microscope?
Yep.
That's what everyone is looking through when it comes to
Sure.
their experiences.
Oh, yeah. No, 100%.
And that's why I put these bigger conversations out there, because like, I want people to understand that we were them at one point. And now, even with our blinders, we don't see the world, but we do see a part of their world that they're missing.
Yeah.
And we're trying to share that vision with them. And then when they see it, they get to add their perspective and say, oh, I was trying, but I was trying so hard in the wrong direction.
Right.
But who is going to correct me outside of the professionals? And that's why sometimes I think it personal when I go on stuff like ChatGPT or Google, and when these platforms don't want to give you any more information, they say, oh, well, we'll seek professional help. That takes money.
Right.
To have a conversation with a professional,
Yeah.
that takes money to be hopefully heard, and the person will tell you the truth. For you guys, when it comes to your profession, technically you can't really diagnose anybody with anything until the third or fourth session.
Right.
You got third or fourth session money?
Right. Or insurance, or, no, totally. That's why my whole thing with my groups is to like be affordable and accessible. That's what drove $7 Sundays. I don't know if you saw that, but I
But
led.
that sounds amazing.
Yeah. So I wanted.
How's that for you though?
For me, it's great.
Okay.
Financially, it doesn't do anything for me, of course, but that's okay for me because I'm okay financially. I'm not
filled.
exactly. And yes, this is my job. Obviously, I do this for money, but like I'm okay on the money side. So I'm not greedy. I'm not a greedy person when it comes to money. My goal is to be well enough to be able to take care of myself, take care of my kids, take a couple trips, go on a couple shopping sprees, and not stress about money. But I'm like, if I'm not a billionaire, that's okay. I really want to, of course, be able to take care of myself, but like, I want to make sure that you have what you need and that you're not out here just struggling. And I'm not going to say I'm not going to provide that to you because you have no money,
Yeah.
If anything, I would try to seek the financial resources elsewhere if possible. Maybe get someone to sponsor. I had 2 sponsors for my event on Sunday, provide 9 tickets, and I was able to give 9 tickets out for free. I still got paid, but 9 people get to come for free.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? So like, I'm very creative when it comes to the finances. So yeah, I think for me, I don't think you should be excluded because of your financial situation, especially since financial situations are a big part of people's mental illness, and their stress.
Yeah. So where can the people find you? You can talk in either camera, that one or this one.
Okay, I like this one. So I'm on Instagram. I have an Eventbrite page. If you guys look up Graceland DMV, that's my handle for my page. My personal is _mentally_Jill.
Okay.
And website coming soon. Don't have an official website yet, but I do a lot of announcements on Instagram, and I do all of my support groups on Eventbrite.
It's funny. Someone will say, hey, do you have a website? I had a website and I got rid of it. And they're like, why'd you get rid of your website? I said, the website was just to push the merch when people wanted to feel like they're a part of what we've done. But my work is YouTube, the conversations. That's where it starts and stops for me. So like a lot of folks is like, well, your website kind of defines who you are and people could read the language. And it's like, I have so many videos that'll tell you who I am.
Yeah.
A paragraph isn't really going to cover that correctly. And it's like, well, what about when they're trying to understand the business? My business is people, and the people tell you whether I'm doing a good job or not. So
Right.
like,
Yeah. And I'm big on word of mouth, and I love content creation. So for me, it's been fine with just using Instagram, a little TikTok here and there, which is Jill got a TikTok, by the way.
You can send that to me so I could tag you in the stuff once we like start cutting clips.
Cool,
'Cause
will
I go
do.
crazy on TikTok.
Oh,
with
nice.
clips. Yeah,
Okay.
just a flood.
Oh, perfect. I gotta definitely follow you there. But yeah, same for me. Honestly, the only reason why I want the website is to just make everything look more official. But what will be on it, probably just a little information about me, what I do, and where you can find me, which is in Lanham, by the way.
Yeah, that's where my family's at.
Nice.
Yeah, same fam I told you about.
Okay, sweet.
Okay, so what's one piece of advice you would have told yourself before getting into therapy as a therapist?
Become a therapist. No, I'm kidding. One piece of advice that I would have told myself.
I know that's a curveball right
It's
there.
a hard question only because I feel like I've learned so much over the years. Give me a topic maybe. But in general, just follow your heart and your gut. Like really do what you think is the right thing for you to do. And if it doesn't feel right, it probably isn't.
Okay. All right, cool. Well, I really appreciate you pulling up and making time for this. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. This was so fun.
Nah, same here. I'm definitely looking forward to us having more sit downs in the future. We're going to do more sit downs in the
Definitely.
future.
Yeah, I told
Folks-
you. Juice
folks
Jones
think-
is going to be in Graceland. We have your booth set up.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you.